Hi, boys and girls. This is Ms. Kathy. I'm so happy you've joined me today for another story just for you. Chapter 10, Maria's Surprise. After all their gear was packed up, the shoebox kids said goodbye to Jake, Jeff, Tony, and Bonzo. When they started for home, Maria sat in the front seat with Mr. Teller. Sammy and Willie were in the back. On the way down the steep mountain road, Willie and Sammy looked curiously at Maria. Maria? Sammy began. Why are you so mad at Chris? Maria turned around to talk through the space between the seat backs. I'm sure he told Dad I did something bad, she said, so I'll be getting in trouble for it when I get home. You must really be worried, Sammy said. You've been upset almost the whole trip. Yeah, Willie said. What did he say about you? I don't know. Huh? I don't know, she repeated. Then how do you know he was getting you into trouble? Willie asked. So Maria told them the whole story of hearing her dad in Chris's room the night before they left. As she talked, she kept her eyes on a spot on the floor between them. And then I heard Mom coming, so I ran to the bathroom, and when I asked Chris about it, he just grinned and said, You won't get away with it this time. She looked up, expecting to see sympathy on their faces, but she saw the boys glance at each other, eyes sparkling as though they shared a joke. Then Sammy quickly looked out the window as though the trees were suddenly very interesting. Maria noticed him biting his bottom lip, but that didn't stop the corners of his mouth from turning up. He's laughing at me, Maria thought. Then she looked at Willie. He also was staring hard out the window. He had his hand up so she couldn't see his face. Willie's laughing at me, too. Suddenly, she thought about showing them the piece of the note she had found, but when she searched in her pockets, she realized she must have dropped it when the bear scared her. During the rest of the trip, the boys talked to her like everything was fine, but she noticed that their eyes still sparkled as if they knew a secret. Chris and Maria's little sister Yo-Yo was waiting at the door when they got home. Was it fun? She asked. Did you like it? Can I go next time? Were you scared? You'll love it when you get to go, Chris told her. We saw 3 bears and snakes that were bigger than you. As Chris continued, Maria hugged her parents. They seem really glad to see me, she thought, and they don't act mad. Maria didn't know what to think now. 2 days later, Maria spent the afternoon at Dee Dee's house. They sat on blankets in the backyard and wrote about the raft trip. I wrote about that mother bear scaring me, Maria said, a little shiver running down her back. But should I write about fighting with Chris? I'm putting it in my story. You know, it's funny. Dad's never said a single thing to me about being in trouble. Maria laid her pencil down. Everybody acts so normal. You worry too much, Dee Dee told Maria, glancing at her watch. Are you almost finished? Almost. Me too. Dee Dee, have you ever thought, maybe we will become famous authors? Maria imagined herself bowing and smiling as people clapped for her when she walked down the street. Just then, Dee Dee's mom stuck her head out the door. She smiled, nodded to Dee Dee, and went back in. Dee Dee jumped up. I got an idea, she said. Let's go over to your house and read our stories to Yo-Yo. As they neared home, Maria noticed that the drapes were closed. Why did Mom do that? She thought. She only closes them at night. I wonder why the drapes are closed, Maria said out loud. Maybe something's the matter. She ran up the front steps with Dee Dee close behind her. She pushed the door open. Mom, she called. Mom, where are you? In the kitchen, Mom answered. Suddenly the lights came on, and there was Willie sitting in his chair beside the light switch. Happy birthday, Maria, he said with a grin. Then Chris, Jenny, and Sammy jumped out from behind the furniture, yelling, Surprise! 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 Someone started singing, Happy birthday to you. Soon everyone was singing and laughing. Maria just stood there, mouth open, looking from one to the other. But today isn't my birthday. Tomorrow is, Maria said. Right, Chris said. You said no one could ever surprise you, but it looks like we did. As soon as the song finished, Maria heard Dad's voice in the hall. I don't think I can hold him any longer. Here he comes. A big mass of black fur and pink tongue bounded into the room. For a few moments, Bonzo and the kids made so much noise nothing else could be heard. He tried to lick everybody and bark at the same time. Maria put her arms around Bonzo's neck and buried her face in his fur. Oh, Bonzo, I'm so glad you came, she said into his ear. She looked up and saw Tony smiling from the kitchen door. I heard about this party from Jake, so I decided I'd arrange my schedule to be here. I had to come to town anyway. Why not today? That evening, after everyone had gone home, the Vargas family sat in the living room talking over the wonderful party. Yo-Yo curled up in Mother's lap, trying to stay awake. Chris and Maria sat down with Dad on the sofa. "Maria," Dad began, reaching an arm around each of them and pulling them close, "I understand you were pretty mad at Chris on your raft trip. I'm sorry you thought Chris had said bad things about you to get you into trouble. When you heard us talking that night, Chris had just told me something you'd said." "Yeah," Chris chimed in, "you said nobody could ever surprise you on your birthday, so we planned a surprise party for the day before your birthday." "It was the best surprise," Maria said. Then she frowned. "I've got something to say." Maria paused and took a deep breath. "Chris, I'm sorry for being mad at you on the trip. I'm sorry I listened at your door, but when I asked you about it, you wouldn't tell me." "I'm sorry, too. I didn't think I could tell you what we were talking about," Chris said, "but I shouldn't have let you believe you were going to get into trouble either." Maria grinned. "You're right. Neither one of us was very thoughtful." Dad gave both Maria and Chris a tight squeeze. It's always important to think about how our actions make other people feel, even if we think we're doing something good for them. Chris and Maria nodded. "We understand," Chris said. He looked at Maria. "We did surprise you, didn't we?" "You sure did," Maria said. "I never guessed I'd have a party the day before my birthday." "Well, that's why we did it, so you wouldn't guess." Chris," Maria said, I'm glad you're my brother." Chris's face turned pink as he ducked his head and smiled. After a moment, he looked at Maria and said, "Hey, didn't Bonzo look funny with a party hat on his head and frosting on his nose?"
The story you have heard today is a chapter of the Shoebox Kids, Book 11, Rattlesnake River Adventure, written by Sandy Zogg, edited and created by Jerry D. Thomas, and used with permission from the Pacific Press Publishing Association. If you're interested in any other books published by the Seventh-day Adventist Church, please visit AdventistBookCenter.com or call 1-800-765-6955.
This podcast is a production of the Carolina Conference of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.